Welcome back to the program. It's the Vicki McKenna Show. Your chance to win $1,000 with our Spring Green Cash, Cold Hard Cash, Joblation Compensation Contest. Your word is your word is bank, and you can win by going to our websites and entering the keyword. The word is bank, B-A-N-K. I saw a short video just a couple of days ago that was put up by the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty featuring a mother whose son was mercilessly bullied in his public school. And she contacted the school authorities, and nothing ever amounted from those contacts. She just couldn't get protection for her son. And then it escalated to the point where he was very severely injured in a bullying attack at his school. This is, if people don't mind me saying, it's a West Dallas, Milwaukee school district. She's on the phone with me along with Cory Brewer from Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Her name is Devon Ray, and she is a mom who is like hundreds, if not thousands, of other moms in Wisconsin who have hit the brick wall of school administrators when they try to get relief for their children from nonstop harassment. Devon, welcome to the show. It's good to have you. And Cory, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
So let's start with Devon. Can you just sort of describe the background of what your child had already experienced? How old was he when the bullying started, sort of in earnest?
Yeah. So my son was born with a brain disorder, and physically to the naked eye, you can tell he's different. So he's kind of been bullied his entire life. We raised him to have thick skin. Don't let people's words bother you. But the physical side of things is where I stepped in. Things used to be just name calling or making fun of the way he walked or the way he carries himself, or his inability to be very athletic. For gym class, kids would make fun of him. But I really stepped in when it started to take a toll, when people were hitting, kicking, choking, and then this ultimate incident where they assaulted him.
So this and this is middle school, or is this high school? What grade are we talking about, or what general age group?
Everything started, way back to kindergarten. Kids used to make fun of him for the braces he would have to wear on his legs. He had hip rotation straps. Everything started really early. But when this last incident occurred, he was in 6th grade in middle school at Lane Intermediate.
Okay. So he's 6th grader, and he's getting hit, kicked, choked, and then 3 kids decide to attack him one day. And if the way you describe it, one holds one arm, another kid holds another arm, another kid grabs his backpack, and together they slam your son into the floor, severely injuring him and causing, trauma, causing brain trauma.
Yeah, he occurred some head trauma. This was outside in the parking lot,
okay.
And his head was ultimately ended up being bashed into the pavement.
What the hell? So how many times did you reach out and say, you've got to do something to protect my son? Your son obviously is covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So you would think that somebody would jump right away at the very first attack on your son because you're potentially at risk of a federal violation.
You would think, but unfortunately, no. Just in his 6th year, so his 6th grade year, the 2021-2022 school year alone, I contacted them, 4 or 5 times of physical offenses. Those are not, I didn't contact them for every verbal offense that took place or the amount of times he was squirted in the face with his water bottle or little things like that. I didn't contact them about. But then the physical ones, it was 4 or 5 in 1 year before this happened.
And they did not respond. They may have responded, but they didn't actually do anything to protect your son.
I got blanket statements of, don't worry, it's handled, and we can't tell you what we did to discipline the student, but it's handled. That's all I ever heard.
In the last attack, the students were not expelled.
To my knowledge, they were not. I as far as I'm aware, they were suspended for 1 to 2 days. I never got confirmation on that, but they were not expelled.
Wow. Enter the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. You reached out to them because you were at your wit's end. Cory Brewer, tell me how common is this story of a parent not getting relief when seeking protection for their children by the administration in schools?
Hi, Vicki. Thanks for having us on. Unfortunately, we have heard about this many times in the past, parents not knowing exactly what their rights are, what they can do, what they should say to the district in order to get a response. And frankly, after the video that, Devon shared her story, we provided some parent resources. After that went out, we heard from many more parents in different areas of the state saying, something similar happened to me. There was bullying in my child's school. What can I do? And unfortunately, it can be really difficult for parents to navigate. So we wanted to help make that process a little bit more manageable so that they feel like they have a voice.
So you guys are actually actively saying if you're a parent whose child is bullied and the administration has done nothing, despite your best efforts, contact Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty.
We wanted to put out a public resource is kind of what our goal was, because we've been hearing about this so much, and unfortunately at WILL we can't help every single parent, but we wanted to put something out that would help parents as kind of a roadmap, be able to do it themselves. Devon did a lot of this herself, and it takes time, it takes a lot of research. Our state actually has a law, a student non-discrimination law. So in this resource we created, we kind of laid out if your child's being treated differently because of their disability, their sex, their race, religion, there's a number of categories listed, then you have a right to file a complaint with your district, and the district personnel are supposed to be trained to recognize that and initiate a process. But in this instance, they did not do that, and they didn't respond adequately. So we wanted to help it make as easy as possible for parents to say, okay, these are my rights. Here's my first step. What can I do? Here's my second step. What if I don't agree with what the district ultimately decides? And kind of help them navigate that process to actually, fight for their kids like they're trying to do.
Yeah, Devon, you had to fight for your kid, and still you had to make, essentially an annoyance of yourself by constantly contacting the administration. And I bet people thought you were annoying that's Devon again. She's calling us about her son again. That happened. Yeah. And yet, all your attempts to be a mom protecting her son, a fighter, met with nothing, met with blanket, statements and boilerplate language.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? If people want to think that I'm annoying for sticking up for my kid, being assaulted, then, I hope they don't have kids, because I feel sorry for them if they wouldn't do the same. I
wish every parent would make themselves annoying to the administration when their kids get picked on. It's becoming so bad. We heard about bullying 10 years ago, and we had these zero tolerance bullying policies, which are useless. Bullying was never as bad as it is now and I'm old, but when I was younger and in school, it existed, but it was never like this. And if the bullies got caught by a teacher, never mind an administrator, it was some kid getting grabbed by the ear and dragged out of school and told to call his mom and say, tell your mom you're going to be suspended for a week or expelled or whatever. And physical attacks were not something that we saw routinely. What do either one of you can weigh in on this. What in the heck is happening that so many kids find themselves at the receiving end of viciousness?
I think it's due to the lack of accountability. As a parent, that's what I saw, is that the multiple times that I contacted to beg for help, and ultimately what ended up happening, Vicki, is they wanted to punish my son. What they came up with for a safety, quote unquote, safety plan, was a punishment for my son. They wanted his schedule to change. They wanted him to, eat lunch in the office. They wanted him to be segregated out when I asked, why are you punishing my son? Because he didn't do anything wrong. Their response was, because it's easier, which I ultimately said, this is unacceptable and I will not accept this. And they said, well, your other option is to remove your son and send him to one of our other schools. And again, I said, why is he being asked to leave? Why are the other students who did this to him not being affected? Ultimately, you're going to change my son's schedule, change his life, make him segregate from his friends so he can't pass through the hallways with his friends, while the kids who attack him go on as if their day, like nothing ever happened. That's not okay. But that's ultimately what their decision was, is
to find another victim. Let the other kids, have their way. To find another victim, if you pull your son out, that was the easiest thing to do. This is a breakdown across multiple school districts. This is West Allis, West Milwaukee. I had a very good friend of mine whose daughter was practically on an almost daily basis. She was also, she was under a disability, IAP. Almost every day was tortured by kids in school. And it was in nothing. I mean, and just like you, fought, had to eventually change her daughter's school. And it didn't seem fair. Cory, in terms of the policies, is there something with the policy that Devon could challenge, or that anybody could challenge, that seems to be ubiquitous in Wisconsin schools, which are administrators doing, let's just do the easy thing, or let's do the thing that's not going to rock the boat? Here in some schools, they have behavioral education plans, which are essentially non-discipline orders. So what can you do broadly for fewer victims?
Yes, I think it's kind of twofold. The first is that our state law actually requires every single school district to have a policy on non-discrimination, and it needs to develop a procedure for how it's going to be implemented, because no student should be treated differently because of their disability, sex, religion, etc. And schools right now, unfortunately, are not doing enough to protect students. So step one would be, do a little bit of research about what that policy is for your school district. They should all have one. And step two, I think, is that, parents can advocate for and speak out about training of staff, because maybe school districts have this policy in their school board policies, but maybe they don't even know it exists. In this instance, there was actually a school board member that at one point said, you know what, Title IX is our harassment policy. No, Title IX is a federal regulation dealing with sex discrimination. So apparently he didn't even know that this pupil non-discrimination policy existed. So how can they initiate the process if they don't even know what policy is there?
Well, and what is the
I think we need better training.
What's the penalty if they don't enforce, if they violate the state law that is supposed to protect children in the school? What is the accountability? As Devon said, there's no accountability for the bullies. How about the people not enforcing the policy, the adults who are supposed to control this kind of behavior? No accountability?
I think one option would be political, to kind of rethink who's on the school board and kind of go through the political process there. Another option would be filing a complaint with the Department of Public Instruction, and that's what Devon ultimately did in this case. And the DPI found that West Allis, West Milwaukee failed to comply with multiple of its own policies. So we kind of lay all of this out in our resource that we provided. And another option that could be kind of a parallel avenue would be filing a federal complaint with the Office of Civil Rights. So it's kind of detailed. Parents, unfortunately, maybe don't pursue it because either they don't know where to begin, they don't have time, maybe they just don't want to deal with all the pushback. These districts have attorneys, and a lot of these parents don't. So there's a power imbalance there as well.
100%.
But you can go to restoringamericanaeducation.org, click on the parents section, and this should be right at the top, and you can get this resource. There's other resources there as well.
restoringamericanaeducation.org. I wish I had more time with both of you. Thank you both for joining me. Cory Brewer from Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, and Mom Devon Ray. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good to have you.